Hi, Christ is risen. I just want to make a very brief little side video. I meant to, in part 2 of the Truth, Scripture, Tradition videos, cover the Masoretic Text, because there was the assertion made that you need to get back to the original text, and this is something that also came up during the Reformation even, because Martin Luther happened to be very interested in Hebrew text. So is the Masoretic text, the Hebrew text that is predominant in the Jewish world today, the text of the Bible as it would have been preserved in ancient Israel? And the answer is probably no. So to explain that, I mentioned before that Hebrew doesn't have vowels. So the Masoretes were people, I think the word has something to do with the Hebrew word for vowel, I don't know. They were people that, as a device to help people read the Hebrew Bible, especially as more and more Jews weren't natively Hebrew or even Aramaic speaking. They were having to learn biblical Hebrew as a liturgical language. Or a scholarly language. They pointed the vowels, which had an effect of fixing the text into a set of renderings. Now, some people think this was done with some explicit anti-Christian intent in mind, and that might be true. Certainly, it's a post-Christ event. I think according to the historical tradition, it was done sometime in the 4th century. I could be wrong on this, but the first extant manuscript we have of the Masoretic is a 10th century manuscript, so from the 900s, that's currently housed in St. Petersburg. Now, why don't we have earlier extant copies of it? A lot of them got burned, frankly, especially in the various cataclysms that happened to Jewish communities throughout Europe over the course of the centuries. We just lost a lot of Hebrew manuscripts, and in addition, when you want to talk, so again, whether the basic question is the Masoretic text the original? Again, probably no. We have one other major Hebrew manuscript tradition extant, which is the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they occasionally contain variant readings, variant spellings on things and things like that. Now, given what I said in my last video, you could probably expect a large number of variant manuscript traditions throughout all this period, because people aren't perfect when they record things. I have been informed that the post-Second Temple rabbis were, especially after the Masoretic rendition, were very careful, but you can never guarantee 100% accuracy in any human endeavor. So there were probably other extant Hebrew manuscript traditions. They're probably the most of them were lost. Hebrew had, or the Israel and Judah had a very tumultuous history. They're being sacked and pillaged by everybody and their brother. Assyrians and Babylonians and Persians and Greeks, and of course the final destruction of the temple by the Romans probably meant the destruction of a lot of the manuscripts that were being used to study and correct and copy and all that sort of thing. So we've got a much more limited Hebrew manuscript tradition than we probably like. There's, I believe, I'm not an expert on this by any means, but I believe the Syriac renditions of the Bible draw sometimes on Hebrew traditions. Certainly in exegesis, like the interpretation of the Bible, they draw on Targum, which are sort of translations of passages with commentary into Aramaic, which was the spoken language in Palestine, Israel, Judea, around the time of the couple centuries before and after Christ. And Syriac is a dialect of Aramaic, so that's definitely a possibility. should we avoid the Masoretic text entirely? You know, with caution, you can probably use it. It probably shouldn't be used liturgically, but certainly having the context of Hebrew understandings, and also being able to just cross-reference it can sometimes be valuable. For example, there's a really fun little passage that a professor of mine were looking at, Father Ed Hughes and I, in Genesis regarding Cain. When Cain kills Abel, in the Hebrew, there's a little passage about the tempter, or the devil, being at his door, and that's not present in the Septuagint translation. So that's a neat little tidbit that adds to the story. At any rate, it's probably not going to be life-shattering either way, but the main thing is to say that the Masoretic text does not represent the text. It might be from a very different variant, and to be fair, if we're going to talk early manuscripts, the Septuagint manuscripts are older. In some cases, they're older than the Dead Sea Scrolls, so what are you going to do? Anyway, Christ is risen. Hope this helps. Bye.